yeah, 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 yeah. You're now tuned into the one and only place where you can get what's needed on your plate along with what's going on in your hood. Candy Lady's gonna keep you up to date with events going on around your way. What's really good? SC by Black locally. Keep them dollars circulating in your own community. It's the SCBBL show. You're now tuned into the SCBBL show. Rock on. Rock on.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the SCBBL show. This is a pop-up interview with the very fine Pastor Tory Liferidge of Moncks Corner, South Carolina. And we are so excited to have him on today for our community conversation. Welcome, Pastor Tory.
Thank you. So glad to be here. Thank you, Candace, for this platform and opportunity.
We are so glad to have you and appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and speak with us on this evening. So for those who do not know Pastor Tory, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I pastor Grace Reformed Episcopal Church here in Moncks Corner. I also serve as the executive director of the Grace Impact Development Center, which is CDC Community Development Corporation that focuses on all nonprofit areas that are key areas: affordable housing, health, education, and workforce development. I'm a native, I was born in New York, but I was raised here in Moncks Corner, graduate of Berkeley High School. Been blessed to live in different metropolitan areas throughout my early professional years, and accepted the call to ministry and was blessed to pastor in Baltimore City, Baltimore County. And my latest stop before here was serving with my pastor in Harlem, New York. And, you know, I pastored a church where I walked in the door the first Sunday and it was 12 old white folk. And it was just like, and here I am. And they still had Negro in the constitution of the church. But it was probably one of the best developmental ministry stops for me in this ministry walk. To then serving with my pastor, it's then it was about an 8,000 member church in Harlem, New York, and so having all of the different exposure to different types of ministry, types of work, urban ministry, and then coming back home. And seeing a lot of the landscape here and just feeling like we were so far behind in so many ways. And that kind of propelled, in what we engaged in at ministry. And I consider myself to be a community pastor. Anyway, I feel like, the ministry, the following of Jesus is about how do you build community wherever you are. And so that's what fuels us for this work.
That is amazing. You went to some pretty hard areas, Harlem, Baltimore.
Oh, believe me, it was some great learning, though. Great learning, encountering great activists, and seeing organizing in different ways and different levels, seeing good and bad, and all of that, helped shape me and who I am and how I engage ministry.
So what do you feel called you into this line of work, the ministry?
Nothing but God. Literally. I was in my dream career, pharmaceutical sales. Back in Durham, North Carolina, I was preparing to go to business school at Keenan Flagler, which is at UNC. My ultimate goal was to be in New York, Madison Avenue, marketing firm, something like that, making a lot of money, hopefully retire early and coach high school football. That was my dream. And it was just something that I was heavily involved in serving the church in North Carolina. And I think I was trying to work enough so that God would leave me alone. And God just didn't. And so instead of going to business school, I ended up going to seminary, and that's what started me in ministry.
Wow. And I laugh because I'm so familiar with how we all have our own plans, but God seems to have a whole different way of, a different path for us to go down that we did not even, anticipate. So that's why I laughed earlier.
Yes, absolutely. Poster child.
Right. So when it comes down to community and being that community leader, what are some of the things, like when you came back from all of your experience that you've gained outside of South Carolina, coming back to your hometown, what are some of the things that you feel like as a community we could be doing a whole lot better, as far as like painting the picture for people? What does community development, community engagement, like what does that really look like, and where are some areas of opportunity for us to, get more involved and do more?
That's a profound question. And I'll tell you this, coming home was probably the most humbling experience in life for me, professionally, but most importantly in with regard to ministry. What I saw was, let me back up. One of the things that I've learned is, sometimes your experience, will not always be received equally by everybody, right?
Right.
And so graduate, part of the Berkeley Stags state championship football team, went to Duke University. I'm in the ministry. And so I came home and I found myself, readily accepted into some good circles, quote unquote, good circles, right?
Yeah.
Meetings, access. And that's part of, my experience is, if you want to be involved in change, you have to be where the change makers are. You have to be able to navigate those spaces. And in doing so, I always recognized, I was like, wow, why am I the only person of color here? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then you hear the people in the community talk about a lot of the issues, and then you look and you see these meetings, and you don't see community folk in the meetings. Most of the folks in the community that's complaining about things, they have no idea about a lot of the key boards and committees that that meet and decide things. And so I found myself kind of balancing two worlds. Yeah. And because let's keep it real, there was some in my own community who saw a lot of the moves that we were making as a church in the community. And you hear, as a pastor, you hear everything, right? It gets back to you, and this who's this young cat, and he coming and trying to make a name for himself and do all of this, and I think over time much of that has gone away, because people have seen it. It's just been consistent. This ain't about any one individual or any ego. It's about really how do you make community impact. So I think seeing all of that, and then seeing the disconnect, and seeing that there's not a whole lot of, I would say, it was not a whole lot of consistent just leadership in our communities. And when I say that, let me be clear. I mean, like, organized leadership in terms of really, trying to build momentum and make an impact. I was like, God, wherever you have me, I only know how to serve one way. And so I just found myself knee deep into just doing the work.
Wow. That's amazing. So as a leader and you taking that action, what can we as community members do more of? Is there anything in the community that tells you, I know it's not, what I've learned is nothing is like right there in front of you, but as long as you dig a little bit more, you can find that information. So from your experience, what are some of the committees or some of the things that go on, meetings that more community members could make themselves available to do and be a part of?
First and foremost, it would be town council meetings, and that's all around Berkeley County. Every town, don't neglect just because it may not be a hot button town like Moncks Corner or Goose Creek, where a lot of the development and action has happened. Every town that has a council, if you live in that town, you need to be at those meetings. I was at one meeting at Moncks Corner Town Council, I think late last year, and I looked, and it was outside of the council and a couple town officials. I think there were like 2 people at the meeting. And from what I understand that is a lot like the norm. And so if you think about that, that means that a very few amount of people make decisions that impact everybody that lives in Moncks Corner, but we don't show up to the town council meeting. It's county council meeting, school board meeting, zoning, the planning and zoning commission meetings. That it is, those are the ones who we often don't have an issue with, don't even think about it until, we're being reactionary, where, they've zoned something and they've allowed, a residential area to be partly commercial. And now it's going to bring extra traffic into the community. And oftentimes we don't even realize what's happening right around us and what is being planned. You have those meetings. Also, it's even, finding those spaces where, communities are meeting. And let me be clear. One of the things that I've uncovered that's been so phenomenal, and I think I'm believing that, especially once this kind of pandemic is over, we're going to be able to maximize. But every rural community that we engage and work with, there are leaders who are active in those communities. And more often than not, when we finally link, it's like, man, they feel like they've been by themselves, like they're trying to do a lot of the work in a silo. And I think all of us have been operating that way. And if we can begin to pool ourselves together, not thinking that we got to all do the same thing. What I'm saying? Yeah. But that we can all begin to learn what everybody is doing. How can we support? How can we help? How can we come together at critical times? How we spread the word, spread information. I think if we start to do more than that, more of that, we'll start to build such a power and momentum in our communities to go to these meetings in force.
Definitely. I couldn't agree with you more. And just so y'all know, I'm a little selfish. I have these meetings with people like Tory so that I can learn. So I have my notepad. And I do think so. If you keep me looking down, I'm just writing stuff now.
Man, yes.
Hey, Mom. And we got Clinton on here. Mom says you're trying to change the doctrine. That's why people were after you. And she got the LOL.
Let me tell you, your mom, when I say I love your mom, man, she is my sister. And I just love her spirit. And we've had some conversation. And I was like, oh, we are definitely in the same spirit. So yes. And shout out. Hey, Apostle.
Yep. Thanks everybody for watching. And if you guys who are watching have any questions or comments, please just drop them in here, because me and Tory, we're just talking about how can we all be involved? How can we be more proactive and engaged? She said she loves you back, Tory. All right, so back to the hot topics. We all know that election is coming up. When it comes to our communities, and I can speak for myself, a lot of times it's hard to kind of really keep up with who's who and how can these people help move us forward. So using your expertise in this area, what are some of the things when we have different candidates running that we can look for in these individuals to see how they can possibly move us forward, not going by what we're used to in just popularity vote, but what are some of the key things that we can look for in the election people who are running?
Well, I think one of the key things is really trying to connect with what is kind of the foundational, viewpoint of particular individuals. Mm-hmm. And I think we engage this, all of us engage this at different levels. And that's why we could have different connections to different candidates. I'll start big picture. Big picture, and I'll use the one that is to me most important for us locally. And I'll tell you why. It is the school board. And big picture for school board, right? Mm-hmm. It's not even for me. Let me say big picture from my perspective. Let me be clear on that. Mm-hmm. It's not even, we can't even get to the business of how do we, legislate for the students and the teachers and the administration. It is, how do we get cronyism out so that we can have a board then that is free to do what's best for the students and the teachers. Because when you look at Berkeley County as a whole, Berkeley County still runs like it's in the 1950s. You know what I mean? And I kid you not, it is sad and shameful, but it's so flagrant. Like people, they have no qualms about doing what they do and continuing the nepotism, continuing the good old boy system. You know, you my buddy here. I know you're not qualified, but I'm gonna slide you in here. And when you look at different departments throughout Berkeley County, look at our school district, we got a lot of middle management that's unqualified. And why is that important? I focus on middle management because sometimes we'll see, strategic hires at the top, right? Just to say, hey, look, we got, we're not biased.
Right.
Middle management is important because we all are humans. And Candace, if I ask you right now, if you hear of a job opening where you are and you know of a qualified, person who just graduated from college, right? That's in your family or close in your network, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the first, hey, you need to apply. Right? Because we're human. Well, if you think about a county and a county, whether it's county, school district, when you think about these entities that, are predominantly white, right? And then middle managers, you walk in the county office building, that means that they're going to do what is human. I'm not faulting them because they're human just like us. I'm just saying we have to level the playing field so that we can get to middle managers that do the same thing, that kind of keeps the diversity naturally.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
And that's not even in just the school board alone. That's like every job hiring, organization anywhere. It's the same thing everywhere. So that's why, like you said before, it's not just all of us focusing on the same things. It's all of us focusing on something and meeting together as a united front, and not just like you doing you over here, I'm doing me over here. And then, we don't get very far because it's just, us and our few people who are trying to go along with us. But it takes all of us to kind of like be on the same page and working towards a common goal. Yeah.
And to keep it 100, I'm guilty of that. I am. My wife would say I'm a workaholic. Like I dive in, and I'm learning now. Part of why I think I do that is because some of the things that I truly believe God calls me to do, if I think about it too long, I'm not going to do it because it's crazy. It's like you put yourself out there. Like nobody wants to do this, and more I realize why so many people come to those crossroads and they choose themselves. I get it, because sometimes being out there, it's hard, it's lonely, it's frustrating, it's overwhelming. You know what I mean? And so I know I have areas of growth, and that's why I always appreciate, people like you who are engaged and doing things. And even from a long time ago, it's like, okay, how do we build? I appreciate that, because I have to do a better job of making sure that, I don't always just die first, you know what I mean? Begin to, it may take us longer.
Right.
And I think for me, it's like, I'm when I see it, I see a division, I'm jumping. And, I need to slow down and do more so that we can all build together. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I can totally relate to that. And shout out to Lady Liferidge, because I know for me and the way that I work, you have to have a strong support, in order for you to do what you do, because my mom's on here now and my family, they know that I tend to do the same thing. I go in and then it's like, you doing this now? You was just doing that. Like, what are you doing? So yes. I understand where you come from on that one. So some of the things that we probably don't think about is like deadlines, when it comes to like deadlines for election, and like I said, like learning a little bit more about these candidates. Can you touch on that some?
Sure. I think deadlines is so important, especially since Governor McMaster just allowed for absentee voting for anybody. So, now there's no necessary, you don't have to necessarily have a specific, reason or justification, which is huge. And I believe absentee ballots will start going out. I believe it's October the 5th through I think it's the 5th through like the 1st of November or something like that. So you can drop by the Board of Elections right here in Moncks Corner and request your absentee. You can go online and do it. I highly recommend that because they're going to be extremely busy. Calling in does not work. We've experienced that. We've had especially a lot of our seniors who've had issues. So we've been helping some of our seniors to request their absentee ballot. I think, when you think about that, we could still, up until 30 days before the election, you can still register to vote. So I encourage everybody. A lot of people, especially a lot of people, are younger folks. They've been, they're put off by everything that's happening. My vote's not going to count. It's going to be one versus the other. There's a whole bunch of crooks in the Democratic Party, and to match the whole bunch of crooks in the Republican Party. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so when you approach this, it's not so much just for the national is super important because that kind of shapes the direction of where we're going. But man, if you don't care about the national election, register and vote for the local elections. When we talk about, school board, when we talk about state senators, right? State House representatives, those are the individuals that can help not only legislate in Columbia, but they serve as the delegation. So when it's time to make certain appointments for position, it's the delegation. And if the delegation is always filled, we are in a Republican state and a Republican county, right? So that means that most of our representatives have been Republican. We've had most of our races, Democrats don't even run. There's not a Democrat that runs, but now that's starting to change, which is huge. But now we need to support them and help them to get in so that we can have more diverse representation. When you talk about funding that's coming, especially rural Berkeley County, we're in dire need of broadband. And that funding that's coming, we need to make sure that we have people that are advocating that it doesn't get gobbled up, right? And let me tell you why this stuff is important. Like, the state would say, we're going to set aside, we're going to give Berkeley County $30 billion to do some special workforce initiative, right? And you know where most of that money is going to go? Trident Technical College. Right? Because that's going to be, and let me, I don't want to bash per se Trident Technical College, but oftentimes their programming, once they get the funding, their programming, is going to be at the main campus and the major ones. And so you got to think about, what does that transportation look like? When you're talking about special program offerings and you live in Holly Hill and you don't have the transportation to get to and from, those are things that the higher ups don't always think about because it's not a priority. It is just, how we got this money, how can we spend it and justify the spending? And then you're going to get some reports.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So that's why it impacts every aspect of our local living. And that's why it's important that we do vote, get involved, figure out. Vote.org will let you know, print out a sample ballot. And once you get your sample ballot, depending on where you live, your school district representative may be different. Your state representative may be different. You may or may not have those elections. But once you get it, then you can reach out if you're not aware of those candidates. Most of them have social media pages, kind of see what they're about, but then you can also reach out to others and kind of get some other insight as well.
Yes, definitely. And it is also like out of sight, out of mind. A lot of the higher ups are not in your towns. They don't know what you're going through. They don't know the Charleston side of Berkeley County, the Somerville side of Berkeley County, the Holly Hill side of Berkeley County. They can't see all of that, and they're really not interested in it. It's like, okay, we got the money. Now it's up to, like you said, the local electives to go ahead and do the right thing with that. And we have to be able to trust those people to do the right thing.
Yes. So, and if I can add real quick on what you were just saying, to piggyback on that, and that's one of the reasons, one of the visions that we started and launched, and I gotta always shout out Grace Reformed Episcopal Church. I love them. They were willing, and we have conversations with some of my seniors. It's so rewarding because, they're like, yeah, when you first came, you start talking about all this stuff and we're going to do all of this stuff. And we were like, you crazy. And why are we doing all this? And we taking all of our church money and we're going to put it out there. And ain't no guarantee that they're going to come and join the church, because that's the mentality that we have. Right. Yes. But now that they've been on the journey and they're like, all right, Pastor, what else are we going to do? Like it changes the mentality. But we couldn't do any of that without the church being willing to say, hey, we're going to invest. We're going to spend the bulk of the resources that come in outside of the walls of the church. Wow. And the benefit of that and the vision that I know God has given is I want to see where there is a connectional hub of community resource centers in all of our rural towns in Berkeley County. So that we can share resources, so that as the resources flow, they get dispersed. We can have after school teachers, tutors, we have, funding for facilities and programming. And that way we in each community, if each community is empowered, then when the powers that be come in, and if we are united, when they got, $800 million they're going to do to broadband, you don't just, and Home Telecom is going to get the contract. They already got it. They're going to get the funds. Home Telecom, you don't have to pay this outside consulting firm to figure out how best to implement it in the communities. We have communities that are empowered, that are organized, that are engaged. So you can work directly with the communities how best to use those resources. And that's the ultimate vision, to see empowered communities that we can then take control of how our communities function.
That's powerful. And I know like that's right on along the lines of, like you said, you and Mom are on the same page. A lot of her goals is to do the same thing. She has an organization called Cross 555, which is similar to that. Like one summer we were taking my daughter down to, what is the thing called? It's in Charleston. It's one of the community centers, and they have like the swimming, Danny Jones.
Oh, okay. Yes.
We were taking her there because it had indoor swimming, and you didn't have to worry about being outside with the sun and the bugs and things of that nature. So it's like, why can't we have something like that closer to our areas where we live? So that just like her doing that over the summer really sparked her to think about like, these are things that we should be thinking about and things that we should be trying to build in our own communities. So like you said, we have a lot of work to do, and setting up these organizations to where we can plug in to each other. Like, okay, this is about to come up. Make sure you have this paperwork done. Make sure you have this person in place. Like all of that stuff is very important.
Yes. And I must, I'm sharing from my perspective. I believe that the way that we do that, our churches are going to have, because let me be clear. Yep. None of what you can do, and people see that what we've been blessed to do in the Wall Street community, none of that happens without money.
Right.
There's no way around it. So a lot of times people in our church, we say we want to do things and we want to see things, but we need our churches. That's the place where we have, collective funds that we have to be willing to invest those funds in our community so that we can see those resources. Because there's something that you said when this new supervisor was coming around trying to woo our votes. He's a big, recreational guy, right? And so recreation is this thing. And now when we talk about rural recreation, the response we always get is, well, we need to maybe we can set up special tax districts. And what that is basically, so let's use Alvin, for example. So Alvin would then have to vote within itself to decide that they want to be a special tax district. So they would get an extra tax, and that tax money would be managed by the county, and it would be specifically dedicated to their recreation. Yeah. Right. Whereas you have a city like Goose Creek that has recreation. It has a recreation department. Yeah. And then a lot of times in Moncks Corner, you have recreation, heavily invested in recreation. But the key is that's not convenient for everybody. Definitely. And we talk about this one Berkeley County, and that's garbage. It is not one Berkeley County. They do not prioritize, across the bridge in Moncks Corner like they do Moncks Corner onto Charleston. It's just a fact. And until we build our communities to be able to fight together and empower ourselves and actually begin to find ways, I think there are creative ways to fund ourselves. I think until we do that, it won't be a realization.
Definitely. And I'm just going to put this out there, Pastor Tory. I think that somebody within your organization needs to write that blueprint and just sell it.
Let me tell you, it ain't even so. It ain't no sell. We ain't selling it. If there's anybody that wants, I'm being for real. Anybody, all of our board, they could tell you our goal. What drives me personally is I like seeing a vacuum. Somebody told me that when I first came back, it used to be I believe it was the Berkeley, Charleston, Dorchester, whatever it was called. It was actually headquartered right across the street from Grace Church. And it was the CDC. And it was like over the span of like 10 years, something like $17 million flowed through there for, early childhood daycare and things of that nature.
That building. Yeah, I remember the building.
It burned down. So the vision has been, how do we create the hub, right? If I'm blessed to be able to have some of these connections, get into some of these meetings, see what's going on, have some experience in doing this and building community development. So how do we create the space where those funds can begin to flow? And then we begin to empower other communities. And so if there are other communities that really want to understand, the blueprint ain't for sale. It is, let's get it. Let's get it. I mean, I've offered, there was somebody who said that they were interested. I was like, well, bet I'll help you do the paperwork. I did all of the paperwork for our CDC. But then if you're not going to follow up, I mean, I don't have time to waste like that. But if you're serious and you want to get it, man, we will help you get it and organize it and partner so that we can lift each community as best we can.
All right, Mama, you heard that.
That's right.
Yep. Any other leaders who's watching or may watch this video later, you heard that. So you have no excuses but to get yourself out of your comfort zone and put yourself out there. Because a lot of us, it's just a matter of getting outside of our own way and, and working together.
Yes.
It's like, people stay within their own little bubble and they're afraid to talk to people. And it's just like, we won't get far because somebody like you, if you're always going and doing what you're doing, you're not going to be back here like saying, hey, how can I help you? Like you're, Burger King or McDonald's. But if somebody reaches out to you and you never know until you ask. So, kudos to you for being willing to be a vessel and be used that way.
I want to see us all win.
Definitely. So, Pastor Tory, who are you? If you don't mind, do you mind sharing some of your perspectives for this election?
No, not at all.
Okay. Candidates you're looking into?
Do you have any particular order where you want to start?
No, I know before we got on live, we were just talking a little bit about the solicitors and how important they were. So you can start wherever you want.
Okay, well, I'll start there. I'm actually part of Ben Pogue's CAT team, Community Action Team. And Ben Pogue is running against Scarlett Wilson for the office of solicitor for Charleston County and Berkeley County. Berkeley and Charleston County shares a solicitor. And that's an office that a lot of times we don't think about. It's not one of the glamorous ones where the Senate, the House, or the president. But that's the office where, when you talk about, the issue that we have with bail, and the issues that we have with pretrial programming and the investments that we're going to make in that, when you think about how do we really address mental health, they do have a mental health court now, I must say that, but, to really invest in all of these ways so that it becomes restorative, right? And that's one of the things that Ben Pogue, he's been hosting these weekly or biweekly restorative justice sessions. It's not just supposed to be punitive, just punishment. It's supposed to be restorative. And so when you think about restorative, and Ben's perspective is it can't be restorative if we're not addressing, housing, if we're not addressing transportation, if we're not addressing, some of the social ills that they face. So we got to think about that. And we have a candidate now, Ben Pogue, who I fully support, who is running. And Scarlett Wilson is part of the machine. So let's be clear. That's why we have to be motivated to get out, to encourage people to get out and vote and support, to make the change, to change towards somebody who can't in and of themselves change all of the system. Let's be clear about that. However, if that is a passion and a priority for them, then it helps to change how that office and the power of that office can be used to help bring communities and organizations together to address some of this work and help leverage the power of that office to fund some of these organizations to do the work in the community. So definitely Ben Pogue for solicitor. We have some key state Senate races and House Republican races. Representative Crystal Matthews, she covers a part of, I think her territory in Berkeley County is Charleston and Berkeley, as well as J.A. Moore, both Charleston and Berkeley. But they are two who have been, who always are willing to lend themselves and support. Crystal and I, we both serve on the CAT team for Ben Pogue. So I had a chance to work with Crystal a whole lot more. I love her spirit, love her drive. Crystal, she's fearless in representing us and being authentic to who she is to make her voice known. So we have to help make sure that we keep these voices in the public sphere so that they can keep advocating for us. But we also have a couple other key state Senate elections. We have Paul Campbell's seat, which is up, and Debbie Chapman Bryant. She is running for that seat. She is a nurse at MUSC. She's a dean. Well, I'm sorry. She's a associate dean of nursing, the School of Nursing. And so she is somebody who's passionate, highly qualified, different type of voice, new to politics, but is passionate about serving in that capacity. And she's up against Brian Adams. And there's the reason why she has a real chance is because there are a lot of conservative Republicans who aren't really excited about Brian Adams.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And so these are some of the things that we got to know, that if we can really get together and rally behind some of these candidates, then it gives us a chance to really place some more, candidates who represent our viewpoints in Columbia. You also have Catherine Whitaker, who is running against Larry Grooms for state Senate. And that's more of it does come into Berkeley County. That's more I think they're Mount Pleasant kind of, I think it's the backside of Berkeley County. But yes, make sure you check Catherine Whitaker. Jen Gibson is a Democrat that's running for state Senate as well. So those are some very, very key seats that we have of new faces that are running that are challenging in some positions that do have a chance to win.
Awesome.
Now, as it comes down to school board, well, actually, one more before I get to school board. LaTory Lord Walker is running. Yes, she is running for Moncks Corner Town Council. And it's so great getting to know her. Of course, most people are going to see her and say, oh, she's running, she's the Black candidate that's running. But this sister is legit. She is a business owner. I mean, she's a wonderful mother. She's an educator. She's lived, taught, worked outside of the country. She brings a great deal of experience. And that's what we need. We need different perspectives, in the town council. She is one to watch for, and we need to support. Everybody can't vote. If you don't know, the town of Moncks Corner, you can only vote if you're in the town limits. Now, town limits doesn't include Kitfield, which is a highly Black community, Cherry Hill, highly Black community.
Wow.
Most of West End, highly Black community. Mid Lane, highly Black community. So those communities are not technically within the town limit of Moncks Corner. So, when we talk about supporting these candidates, they need all the support that we can to talk to our friends, our neighbors, our co-workers, people who we know who do live within the town, to make them aware that she is a highly viable candidate. There's another a candidate that is I'm sure good, because I know him a little bit, good person, but we need different perspectives, people who prioritize different things. That really speak to our voices, our needs, and our concerns. And that's why I'm wholly behind LaTory for town council.
I'm glad you brought her up, because she will be on the show tomorrow. So make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. Yep, to hear from LaTory herself. She is amazing.
I gave her a good intro. I warmed it up for her.
You definitely did.
So for school board. Yeah, school board here's school board. So let me put out a couple of disclaimers, right? My ultimate ultimate goal for this election has been, we've been trying to work on this since earlier this year, has been targeting our school board election for a couple reasons. One, we know that there is one individual who pretty much runs Berkeley County, and if you watch the Minority Report, I have no qualms. He's a Berkeley County councilman, and he supported, he quote unquote supported several candidates that are now on the school board. They got majority of the school board, and on that the day that they were sworn in, their legal counsel and hired who? Yes, hired him. He's now serving as Berkeley County School District legal counsel and a county councilman. His I don't know if they're still law partners, but one of his law partners he's serving on the school board, and then I think he represents the county on some issues. So you see how stuff is really intertwined.
Yep.
And the councilman I'm talking about there is the associate superintendent of human resources for Berkeley County School District. So who I don't think has any HR experience, right? So keep that in mind. Who was placed in her position, and they moved. There was a sister that was serving in that role. She is now the chief diversity officer, but I don't know how much power she has in that role. So when you have all of that stuff going on, and trust me, there's a ton more I could tell you about. So our main goal has been, how do we flip the school board, take back power so that we can, get rid of our legal counsel and begin to remove the people that have gotten to their positions by nepotism who aren't really qualified. We just want the best of the best people with the best experience serving in our school district, so that our school district can be reflective of that best.
Yes.
So with that being said, when you look at District 1, which is Hanahan, you have Brent. I knew Brent Stone a little bit in high school. I think he was like a recently, graduated teacher or whatever. But we're pushing for Brent Stone because and remember, a lot of my push for, and that's part of my disclaimer, is my ultimate goal is, how do we get rid of the controlling force in Berkeley County School District, right? Yep. Michael Ramsey, who is Brent Stone's opponent, he still is the right-hand man of our county supervisor. He was on the campaign trail with our county supervisor. He went from, I believe, he was in the tax office in the county, and now he's in economic development. And I got a feeling if we weren't making such a big stink about our economic development being, unfilled, that position, the head of economic development, he probably would have slid right on in there, right? So, and he can't stand me because of that. He swears I'm talking about him, I'm making him seem evil. Just calling it is what it is.
Definitely.
So he's the opponent, the representative right now in District 1. So we're pushing for Brent Stone. District 3, pushing for Crystal Wigfall. She is an excellent candidate. Talk to her experience. She really is passionate about her wealth of experience in mental health as well, to bear in the school district. And so she's District 3. District 3 is Goose Creek, one half of Goose Creek. Okay. The other half of Goose Creek is District 5, and that's David Barrows. Now, David Barrows is he is somebody that just about everybody who I know and who faithfully go to the school board meetings and whatnot, they really speak about just him being a full integrity when it comes to the kids and the teachers. He's a former teacher and I think a former principal as well. I'm not sure about that, but he has some competition. If you notice, there were a couple people who were added at the last minute to a couple races. His is one, and so but that's why we got to really push everybody to really go hard for these candidates, right? So that's David Barrow, District 5. District 7. Now I've publicly come out for Yvonne Bradley, right? And I've taken some hits on that one, and that's fine. I've worked with Yvonne. And so that's what that support has been. Because again, we've been, and I want to be clear, we've been planning for this for like, this is not something that we just, hey, it's election season. We've been targeting this school board election because we really feel we got a chance to flip it in this election cycle.
Right.
But she's running the District 7. You also have Ralph Perlow, who's running the District 7. And Ralph is somebody who I've had conversations with Ralph, have conversations with both of them. And I will say that Ralph is not afraid to speak up and to be boisterous. And you know, he has a lot of what I think we need in our school district as well. And I hope, we've been talking, you know, my hope is there's another candidate that's running from King Bay. And so if you're talking about 3 candidates in District 7, you know, usually in District 7 was drawn initially to have a Black representative on the school board. That's the St. Stephen and Cross area. And so we're hoping that doesn't come out and we can retain that seat, because ultimately, well, let me go to District 9. District 9 is Kirsten Tanner, because Ann Condon, who currently sits in District 9, she's just terrible. I mean, we've seen some of the stuff that come out publicly or Facebook posting, but most of these guys, and Michael Ramsey, that's part of that you know, that crew that supported Whitley, right? And that's part of that crew. And so when we talk about in the school district, we need to flip those seats so that we can just get a majority. If we get a majority, if we get all of those seats, we're great. Awesome. But if we, you know, at least if we can get have a 5-4 majority, then we can start making moves in the school district level to really start to level the playing and get the nepotism out and hire and get the best qualified people to serve.
Tory, what's District 9? What area is that?
District 9 is it's Pimlico and it stretches all the way over to like Nexton. Okay. So like Pimlico of the Whitesville area, but definitely the Nexton area, because Kirsten is actually living in Nexton. So over the course of these next, like probably 10 years, these districts are going to shift, because now with Cane Bay being included in District 7 and all of the households in Cane Bay, they will have an influence into how District 7 looks, and Nexton will have an influence in how District 9. But so District 9, that
I'm sorry, I cut you off when you said District 9.
No, I was just saying District 9 is that it contains that area.
Got it. Somebody wanted to know, why aren't you running for county council?
Man, I did it to run, and it took a lot, and honestly, it was a race that we knew we were unlikely to win unless we just caught lightning in the bottle. But part of it was to highlight we could have won if all of the folks that were registered to vote actually voted. And I'm talking about our community. I'm talking about Liberty Hall Road. They have the numbers, but they're just so used to not having an impact that they didn't vote. And I will tell you this, my opponent, you know, the OBs, you know, I think his dad served on council or granddad served on council. They're business people in the Goose Creek area. I had Black business owners tell me like, hey man, you know, I want to put a sign out and support you, but you know, the OB's been good to me. And I was like, wow, really? Yeah. Okay, you know, so it takes a whole lot. I mean, we knocked on like 1,200 doors, and it was a late spring, summer election. So unless the Lord say so, I have no intent of doing that again. But I'm willing to help from the outside. But if it's something that is a need, then I would be open to that.
That's awesome. So Pastor Tory, you gave us a lot of good nuggets on tonight. I want to just end our session with, if there's anything that I didn't ask you and anything that you would like for our listeners and followers to know, please feel free to take some time and just share that with them on tonight.
I just want to say first and foremost, thank you, Candace. And I highlight these platforms. Again, these are platforms where all of us are trying to do as best as we discern, you know, according with the will for our life. We try to do it in our own ways, but these are the platforms that are necessary. So many people that you'll reach, Candace, that I'll never reach. And there are people that I'll reach that you may never reach. But if we are all working together in that, and I think we have so many community leaders all around Berkeley County that are doing the work. And my plea is that we all just find ways to connect with each other. Again, I know all too well, every idea that somebody has doesn't mean you got to act on it right now, because, if your plate is full, you don't have to commit to something that, you can't really follow through on. But you may have other connections, other people who have a less full plate that can help somebody. So I'm just imploring all of us to continue to push, especially in this season where there is a will to unify and see unity, that we just push to connect, collaborate, network, help each other out, and help lift those who everybody doesn't have to be out front.
Right.
Everybody doesn't have to attend all the meetings, but if we get a good crew, if you see people and your spirit discerns that they just genuine, let's not be so hard on the folks. Like, trust me, if you're looking for me to be perfect and not make mistakes, ain't gonna happen. Right. But if you discern, let's have conversation, feel like the heart is there, let's lift up those that are trying to do the work, because it's not easy at all. So I would just leave it at that. And thanks again for having me on the show tonight.
Thank you so much, Pastor Tory. And also thank you for being one of the leaders that are not just within your four walls of the church building, but, you're in the community and you're making strides for everyone and not just your tithe paying members. So thank you for that.
Amen.
And thank you for just sharing your knowledge and expertise with us on tonight. And you guys have no excuses. You're getting the information. Let's get out there. Let's do the work. It's, yes, we're a little bit behind, but at least now you can print off your voting thing and fill it out and make sure you have it, in the mail on time. So there is absolutely no excuses. And we're here to support in whatever way that we can. And before you was getting ready to say something else before I
was just saying, no excuses. I agree. I'm sorry. Amen. Corner for you.
And then one of the things I wanted to make sure you guys know is that we will be having our annual African Consciousness Festival right here in Moncks Corner, where we are highlighting the African culture. We'll have dancers, drums, storytelling, live performances from some of our local artists, our musicians, trunk or treat for the kids, and a time for us to just, we're outside, so you can social distance, you can wear your mask and take precautions, but come out, learn something, meet new people, meet some of the candidates. Whoever is able to make it on site will be there. So yeah, come out and have a good time. It's on October the 24th from 2 to 6. And you can go to akk.eventbrite.com to register. And we hope that you guys are informed and that you have a good rest of your week. It's your girl Candace signing off for South Carolina by Black Locally, and Pastor Tory Liferidge signing off for Grace Reformed Episcopal Church and the Community Impact Hope Center. All right, we'll see you guys later.
SCBBL show. Rock on. Rock.